Hi, Amy Elizabeth, somatic and intuitive healer here.
And I'm Kate. I'm here to get a little clarity for those of us who are new to the world of astrology.
I am not astrology. So we are coming to you today as Venus and the South Node are conjoined in Libra. And a part of what feels really important right now, as we are just barely a week past the federal holiday of Thanksgiving, is looking at traditions. So the South Node, one of the things it represents is traditions. It represents the past.
Yeah.
It represents, if it's something you subscribe to, my glasses are really dirty, our past lives.
Okay.
It represents how we have handled ourselves in the past in this meat suit.
Mm-hmm.
It represents our ancestors. It represents traditions.
Okay.
It represents patterns of behavior that are embodied.
Okay.
Embodied is a huge word right now in the transformational community, and it is regularly misused.
So how are you meaning it in this way?
For something to really actually be embodied, it is something we do without conscious decision.
Okay.
It is something that we are so well practiced at. Me talking with my hands is an embodied thing. It takes no thought. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
When we, other examples of embodied behavior is choosing to shut down. I'm going to pick all like family related stuff. Choosing to not communicate. That's an embodied behavior.
Okay.
Especially when we live in the upper Midwest, the land of Scandinavians, hi, and Germans.
Hello.
Who really believe in being stoic and being strong and silent.
Mm-hmm.
Those are embodied behaviors. They are also distorted, nasty behavior patterns.
Okay.
Because if we choose silence over communication,
mm-hmm.
we are working from this is what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we know that there is a smoother path forward, when we communicate without having to be like, okay, I need to consciously say this to this person, that becomes an embodied behavior.
Okay.
So an embodiment takes a long time. It takes practice. It takes doing it over and over and over again to really be like, oh, I don't need to think about this. I don't need to turn on the switch. Which brings me back to the South Node.
Okay.
And to Venus.
Yes.
Venus is part of what represents our self-esteem, our sense of self-worth. And oftentimes moving against tradition. And it's not that all tradition is bad. I come from a shamanic tradition that's like 30,000 years old. So clearly, I am not anti-tradition.
Mm-hmm.
I am anti-unconscious tradition.
Okay.
I'm anti simply doing something because we've always done it. Those of you that follow have heard us talk about the cut the ends off the ham story.
Yeah.
Mindless tradition, doing something because we've always done it. Not getting curious, not going back and saying, well, why do we do this?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this the tradition? I spoke to a client today, and one of the things she's interested in is looking at mythology from 6,000 years ago in Libya.
Okay.
Do you know how much mythology from 6,000 years ago in Libya exists?
How much?
Not a fucking lot.
Okay.
It's hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons it's hard to find is because we, especially here in the United States, carry a mythology that the world started like 2,000 years ago. That's mythology.
Right.
The idea that the world was created in 7 days is mythology. It's not factual, it's symbolic. It's symbolic language. And when we don't move from a place of recognizing and being able to differentiate symbolic language from literal language,
Mhm.
part of that hooks into South Node tradition. Well, we just have to believe this because it's in front of us,
Mhm.
rather than getting curious and recognizing that, oh, it turns out that there was a whole planet of people doing all kinds of stuff
Right.
before 2000 years ago. And so our mailman's here. He's like got right up, cuddly with our window. And a part of curiosity is having the self-confidence, having the trust in ourselves,
Mhm.
to recognize that if our center is based in a tradition that has been handed to us,
Mhm.
we don't have very solid self-esteem.
Okay.
We don't have very solid self-worth, that our self-worth is actually not based within ourselves. Our self-worth has been outsourced.
Mhm.
And so the beauty, the magic, the opportunity here, or the obstacle, depending on whether you are an optimist or a pessimist,
Mhm.
or a realist, is the chance to see how you have farmed out your self-esteem based on traditions you have been handed. And to get really curious about those traditions, to get really curious about the past pieces, and say, well, is this really what I believe?
Right. And I think the holidays are a great time to do that because everybody's sort of gathered. So you can ask the elders in your family, why do we do this? What does this mean?
Mhm.
And you can ask yourself, what does this mean to me now? Is this important to me? Is this something I want to carry on and teach to my children or
Mhm.
family members?
Yeah.
So
And we're also coming to you in this post Gemini full moon space.
Mhm.
And well, the full moon is this point where she has reached the height and the peak. We saw her this morning, of her fullness and her illumination. Once we've moved past that peak, which happened very, very early Monday morning, like 3:16, she peaked. We're in this releasing space. So we had this beautiful illumination from the moon, this in the post weekend recovery from the holiday. We had all this illumination building up, shining a light on traditions, on ways of thinking, on ways of being that we can now let go of,
Mhm.
because the moon is waning. She's getting smaller. She's releasing her illumination. The other thing that happened the day of the full moon is that Mercury and Neptune had a little chat.
Okay.
So
And
go ahead.
what what form does that take? How
Well,
do we
Mercury's communication,
Okay.
hence the little chat.
Okay.
And Neptune is the ways in which we cling to illusion.
Okay.
So the moon being in her waning stage, when Mercury and Neptune came together to have this really supported, really beautiful opportunity to release our illusions on how communication is a problem or a challenge or a hurdle.
Yeah.
Because communication actually creates ease for everyone. Nobody has to make any assumptions, which is so South Node.
Mhm.
Assumptions are so South Node. People let those go. Assumptions also kill intimacy.
Yes.
So if we're really looking to create and forge a new path with our elders, as you spoke of, I love that you brought that in, with ourselves, with our partners, with our families of choice,
Mhm.
communication is essential. To never assume
Right.
that we know anything about what is going on for that other person, to really lay things out straight, because what we're then releasing through clear communication is our illusion.
Mhm.
We're letting that go, and it gives us space to forge new traditions that are built on everyone's self-esteem, because everyone then is finding their voice.
Mhm.
and finding your voice can be hard. So we're just here sending you a lot of love. Did I get everything?
I think you did.
Does everything feel
Yeah.
clear?
Yeah.
All right, as we're here in a tank top and a sweatshirt. even showing that two people who are occupying the same space are having very different experiences of it.
Right.
So communicate. Holidays are stressful, and they're often stressful because everybody is making assumptions about what everybody else wants and what works for everybody else, rather than solidly saying, this is where I'm at. This is what I can hold.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I can support. And I'm really curious about what you can hold. Leonardo, leave it alone. What you can support and where you're at.
That's our cat.
That's
so
our
he's
cat.
getting into something. He's being very curious.
He's trying to walk away with this little fossilized jaw, and we can't have that happening.
Yeah, I think it's important also to assume benign intent. To start the conversation, in a curious way and not an accusatory. And what did you mean? And so
curiosity. Yeah. This is what I can hold. What can you hold? What do you want? What are you interested in? No passive aggressive. Don't make any assumptions. Let that go. We've got Venus conjunct the South Node today, inviting us to meet things in a completely different space. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to like us, share us with your friends, leave your questions, your comments, your dedications, your requests down in the chat. We love hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having